Hello, welcome to Medill Newsmakers. I'm Ophelia Dane. The pandemic is officially over, but its aftermath isn't. The slump in the commercial real estate market is one of the many residual problems that impact the world and our Chicago. Reports show that the global real estate market is facing $175 billion in debt, ranking as the top industry with the most distressed bonds and loans. The Chicago Loop is home to many trophy commercial buildings, and it's struggling because of office vacancies. People are hesitant to give up remote working and return back to offices.
Office drove the market in downtown for years. We had 350,000 people a day coming to the Loop. We have a little over half that now, so about 180,000 people. Makes a big difference.
According to the real estate company Avison Young's latest report, the office vacancy rate at Class A trophy buildings is 7.5%, but Class B and Class C buildings are doing much worse. Downward office demand and dramatically rising interest rates have put pressure on mortgage security loans in Chicago. Only 50% of the loans are in good standing, 28% are watch listed, 9% have been special serviced, and up to 13% of the loans are delinquent. Long story short, not enough people are using the offices, and companies don't want to or cannot afford to pay for the empty spaces. The market demand is at its lowest.
Companies are, when they're making a decision about a lease expiration, they're still choosing to sign an office lease, but they're reevaluating how much space do we really need and how do we make sure that we design the space in a way that meets the needs of our employees.
Lower demand will eventually lead to a decrease in the value of office buildings.
You need to have demand for an asset, for that asset to have value. And so if it's an office building and there's no demand for that space because people are not returning to the office, it's going to impact the value.
Those offices need to continue to generate revenue, or they're going to be taken back by the banks. If they're taken back by the banks, somebody's going to lose a lot of money. But those buildings, those old office buildings, would then be resold at some lower amount, which might enable them to be converted into housing, because the cost of the building itself will be so much less.
Fewer people in the office means fewer customers who are going to the restaurants and stores in the area. Experts say many stores barely survived the pandemic, and they will have to struggle a little longer.
We counted 35 vacant storefronts on LaSalle Street, and that wasn't actually the whole street. It was just really the southern half of the street.
Loop's storefront vacancy stood at a 20-year high in 2022. Now, in 2023, more people are coming back to the Loop. The situation is recovering slowly.
Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the Loop feels just like it used to. Mondays and Fridays, not so much. But what is great is that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are much busier than they used to be. People are coming down.
Nonetheless, we can still see empty storefronts and closed restaurants on the street, and the health of the storefront economy is tied to the office vacancies.
So a big driver for employees is there something to do after work? Is it located in a neighborhood or an area where there's restaurants, bars, shops? Because that can also be a driver for how people return to the office if there's something to do afterward.
To revitalize the storefront economy, in 2023, the government has released funds to help small businesses.
Just announced was the city's Small Business Improvement Fund, which is actually giving some major money, $250,000, maybe even $300,000, sort of depending on your business, or whether it's a business or cultural institution or even a small cafe on LaSalle Street.
To relieve the pressure of the commercial real estate market and make the area vibrant again, Chicago also launched the LaSalle Street Reimagined project to turn vacant office buildings into residential buildings. Chicago government selected 3 projects in 2023 to turn 3 landmark office buildings into residential living. The selected finalists are 111 West Monroe Street, 208 South LaSalle Street, and 135 South LaSalle Street. More than 1.6 million square feet of vacant space will be remodeled as apartments, hotel, and retails, including nearly 320 affordable housing for people with at least $45,000 in household income. The project represents $550 million in total investment.
We found out in the Loop, and this is not just LaSalle Street, but the entire Loop, that the residents, there's 45,000 residents, higher than it was before the pandemic, that they spend about $400 million a year, disposable income on food, entertainment, things that we all spend money on daily living, not including the cost of their housing. But what was really interesting is there's about $940 million more dollars available that they're spending on those same kind of things, but outside of the Loop. And so there's a real economic value to a resident if you have the kind of services and products and entertainment that they want.
Chicagoans are supportive of the project and hope it could revitalize the neighborhood.
It'd be great to have more people living in the Loop and really have it be more of a vibrant neighborhood.
I believe that's one way of bringing more people down here to the central business district, also to shopping and restaurants.
Getting them filled up is going to help the economy, no matter what it is.
However, some voiced their concerns about the cost of living here.
One of the reasons why they're vacant is because of the cost of being in that building. I mean, for how expensive it is to be there. And I don't see how it would be any less expensive for someone to have it as a residential area.
The Loop still has a long way ahead to recover from the hit of the pandemic. Experts say they expect to see things turn around in the middle of next year. Thanks for watching. I'm Ophelia Dang. Up next, we have another story about downtown buildings. Julia O'Leary shows us the motivation behind an iconic Chicago tour.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Medill Newsmakers. I'm Julia O'Leary. As the third biggest city in the United States, Chicago's tourism industry is constantly growing, but it's rare to find something that both tourists and locals enjoy doing. When you search what to do in Chicago, one of the first recommendations is the Chicago Architecture Tour on the River. The city is very architecturally different from other major cities. Between the careful and clever design of buildings to the stories behind them, the Chicago Architecture Tours are one of a kind. I wanted to dive deeper to find out, why is the architecture so special and who's behind these famous tours?
An organization at the heart of architecture is an obvious one. The Chicago Architecture Center, or CAC, serves more than 500,000 people each year. And one employee's passion for architecture ignited when she took every single tour the CAC offered.
So I thought I would do a social media campaign and challenge myself to take all of these tours. I think at the time it was actually 85. So it's around Chicago, an 85 tours challenge. And so I took all 85 tours within 1 year. I did a blog about it. I invited social media friends to come join me, and it was a ton of fun. So then after that, I was like, I might as well become a docent.
A docent is a person who acts as a guide, and it comes from the Latin word for teacher. McElroy enjoyed her years as a docent for one main reason.
I love the storytelling. Just absolutely love the storytelling. We have these beautiful buildings, and they're beautiful to look at. They each have their own unique qualities as far as architecture and design, but the stories behind the people who built them, the people who created them, the people who imagined them are just fantastic, and they're just so inspiring.
One of her favorite stories is the Carbide and Carbon Building, also known as the Pendry Hotel.
There's always been this urban myth that the building was designed to look as a champagne bottle, as a kind of resistance to the prohibition. I found the notes from the architect. It says that the client wants the building to be a green color, like a champagne bottle. So you'll see there's this green terracotta, black granite, there's bronze on the bottom, but that one I think is really phenomenal is at the top they have a spire that is 24 karat gold, like the wrapping of a champagne bottle at the top.
Whether it's a champagne-like building, rare artifacts on the Tribune Tower, or the myth of Mrs. O'Leary's cow, there are endless stories to be told.
While it's not the only boat tour company, Shoreline Sightseeing is the biggest. It's a family-owned business started in 1939 that has kept the family feel alive within its employees. Courtney E. Thorne is one of 30 docents at the company. She says the best part is the uniqueness of tours.
Everyone comes from a different background. Everyone comes with different interests as well. And the diversity of interests and diversity of thought is really what makes our team so dynamic, and being able to have some people that come with an architecture background, some people come with an engineering background, some people come with storytelling and performance. And it means that every time you go on one of our tours, you're going to get a different experience. And so people that live in Chicago, they bring their family and friends that are in town every single time, and they get a different shoreline experience every single time.
With 11 tour boats, Shoreline gives 36 to 40 tours every single day. It's rare to see repeat business from locals and tourists alike, especially for a giant tourist operation. The uniqueness of tours comes from the docents, who are able to retain incredible amounts of information. It can take years to master, but their love of architecture and love of Chicago usually makes them a quick study. At least that's the case for Shoreline's longest docent, Kevin Burrows.
I am a 23-year veteran of Shoreline Sightseeing, and I am a docent, which can translate roughly as teacher.
Kevin's introduction to Shoreline 23 years ago was coincidental.
I was a bike taxi driver, and someone stole my pedicab out of a garage. And my friend Tony Macaluso said, "You should do what I do. Come to the boats, Kevin." And I came down and took his tour instead of going to a temp interview, and I never looked back.
Despite the fact that he was thrust into an unexpected job, Kevin says he believes he was destined to be a tour guide after volunteering to do tours on his first day.
And I stepped up and said, "I'm a quick study." I went to the library and got every single book on Chicago I could. I sat down and made note cards. I was scheduled to do 3 tours that Saturday. I did the 3 tours and I put the note cards in my pocket. I was done with them. It was nice, so I did 5 tours the very first day I was ever a tour guide.
She got that from a frustrum, the crystal formation you will find if you look at fluorite, or my birthstone, a sapphire.
He says his admiration for the city and its intentional planning is what motivates him to keep giving tours.
Chicago is the birthplace of the skyscraper. It's a city like no other. People come from all over the world. They're amazed by it. Chicago, even more than other major cities, really planned out. The architect of the plan of Chicago of 1909, Daniel Burnham. Burnham was a genius in urban planning, and what he learned from the World's Fair led him to map the plan of Chicago. And this is really special in Chicago. There is no way to really get the effect of the skyscrapers of Chicago unless you're on a shoreline boat in the water.
And Kevin says he doesn't plan to get off the boats anytime soon.
I was living 20 years in Chicago, and I never took a boat ride. And then I got on a shoreline boat. That was 23 years ago. I have not been on land since.
I'm Chicago bound. I'm Chicago bound. They try to burn it down. I'm Chicago bound. They try to burn it down. We'll build it right back up, and I'm Chicago bound. Welcome to Chicago. Cosmic Vibe, Cosmic Life. Thank you, folks.
So many years of hard work and passion. Thanks for watching. I'm Julia O'Leary. Up next, Raylan Lee shows us what's to come in the Chicago Park District this summer.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Welcome back to Medill Newsmakers. I'm Raylan Lee. The Chicago Park District has been leading the way in assisting people with disabilities since park staff members first received training on how to assist disabled Chicago residents in 1965. The Park District continues to improve the lives of Chicagoans with disabilities by offering a variety of different recreational opportunities. It offers a special recreation summer camp that's geared towards sports as well as social activities. Daniel Hermley, the Assistant Manager of Special Recreations at the Chicago Park District, tells us a little bit about the camp.
Our Special Recreation Summer Camp consists of over 20 sites spread across the city of Chicago in all regions, whether it's north, central, and south. At each park, there are 6 hours of programming, generally during late morning into early afternoon. Usually about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. These camps are specifically for kids with disabilities ranging from all the way down to 5 years old, all the way up to 21 years old. And then in some occasions, the camps also are for adults with disabilities. So a big part of our planning process is our hiring. Now this begins as soon as the previous year's summer camp ends. We want to make sure that we are hiring individuals that are suited and appropriate for their job. This reflects based on their experience as well as their ability to work with individuals in a recreation setting.
There you go, you. That's what I'm talking about.
Why it's a little bit different from our summer camps is that we have instead of recreation leaders, we have special recreation leaders. Instead of just having an instructor, we have a special recreation instructor.
With many different instructors throughout the program, we now take a deeper look into what a day at the Special Recreation Camp looks like and the activities they partake in. Andrew Gross tells us all about it and why he loves the Chicago Park District.
And every single one of our special rec camps are different.
Every special recreation camp is geared for different age groups, whether it be adults, teens, or kids.
So every day is changing, every park is a little different, and it serves what those participants in those programs need. So they have their group and they assess how that group, how they are going to best be successful in program for the day.
One of the most used resources the camps use are the unlimited access to water-based activities in Chicago.
So lots of swimming happens. The parks that have pools, they swim. Parks that have beaches, they'll go swim at the beach.
But they also take traditional field trips like other day camps.
They go to the zoo or they go to a museum and things like that, so they get out and about around the city to do things.
While their activities vary day to day, the Special Recreation Summer Camp is a popular demand.
We're also extremely popular, so our camps max out right away.
Andrew also expresses his love for the Park District and Special Recreations.
I've got the privilege in Special Rec to work citywide. Meaning that I'm not specifically assigned to a park and their programs. I work and assist and support them. So you get to go out, you get to see neighborhoods, you get to see people, you get to go to that area for the day. It's been one of the best things in my life has been being with the Chicago Park District. I absolutely love working here.
To work at the Special Recreation Summer Camp, you have to go through specific training when hired. Members may read the job description and see the overview, but they don't know what to expect. Joel Gutierrez gives us an inside look at how the trainings work and why they're needed.
We have trainings such as participant support strategies, which helps give the staff some ingredients to promote desirable behaviors amongst participants, just a little bit of like what they would see when they're out in the field.
Most trainings are meant to give employees tips and tricks to set them up for success.
What to do if a participant has a meltdown, what to do if there's a change in schedule. It's so important to know this stuff beforehand so you can better prepare for it, because there's no one tip or trick that helps to work for everyone.
But they don't only focus on behavior.
And then we also have fun and games where we teach them different games that we can play.
These trainings are not only geared for new hires, but year-round workers as well.
We're focused on team building and building that cohesiveness within our unit, because these are all professionals in the field. They've been doing it for years. So they know all this stuff. So then we try to do these trainings as team building activities to kind of just build that camaraderie and get them excited for summer.
Joel is forever grateful for the position he works and for the Park District.
I can't imagine waking up and doing anything else. I feel like so much gratitude just being able to say that this is my profession. I get to wear this to work, so I get this opportunity to make an impact on lives, especially with our populations, because they're just so marginalized.
So much work goes into planning these types of camps, but staff members say seeing the smiling faces on the participants' faces make it all worth it. Thank you for watching. For Medill Newsmakers, I'm Raylan Lee. Coming up next, Drake Wilson tells us about the online misinformation that could have you or your loved ones risking their health this summer.
Go you Northwestern, go Northwestern, break right through that with our colors flying. We will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. Western University, the possibilities are endless.
Welcome back to Medill Newsmakers. I'm Drake Wilson. With summer fast approaching, Chicagoans are ready to pack their beach bags and head to the lake. But online misinformation regarding sun safety may have some people leaving their sunscreen at home. According to the Center for Disease Control, most skin cancers are caused by overexposure to ultraviolet light.
The primary cause of skin cancer is excessive exposure to the sun, both from artificial sources such as tanning beds, but also from the regular sun outside. Other risk factors include having history of sunburns, family history of skin cancer, weakened immune system, and certain other types of things.
But social media posts by self-described holistic health coaches are spreading a contradicting and dangerous message, claiming that the sun does not cause skin cancer. These posts typically promote the sun's healing properties and argue that skin cancer is a modern phenomenon instead caused by poor diet and sunscreen.
Sun damage causes skin cancer because UV radiation causes DNA mutations in cells. And once those mutations accumulate, they can grow and metastasize, which is what cancer does.
As the American Cancer Society notes, humans and animals have had cancer throughout recorded history, with the oldest description of the disease dating back to about 3000 BC. As for claims that sunscreen is more cancerous than protective, the science begs to differ. But a 2021 study by independent laboratory Valisure did identify traces of benzene in 78 sunscreens and after-sun products. Benzene is a known carcinogen linked to blood cancers like leukemia, and the study did lead to various recalls.
The discovery of benzene, trace amounts of benzene, was concerning, but it's important to note that most of the sunscreens that are out there are safe. And we know that the sun is carcinogenic, so I would recommend that people wear sunscreen. And if you wanted to be more conservative, there's two basic kinds of sunscreen. There's chemical sunscreens, and then there's physical sunscreens. And so the physical ones are basically zinc and titanium based. And what they do is they just reflect the light off of the skin. They're like little mirrors, and so they reflect the light off. And so those have been shown to be very safe and effective. I think the best thing is sun avoidance. If you can avoid the sun, that's the best. And if you can't avoid the sun, the easiest thing is to wear sun protective clothing. If you do have skin that is exposed to the sun, we recommend SPF 30 applied like every hour or two. And then of course, avoiding tanning beds, which can also cause skin cancer.
While a quick Google search can quickly debunk the claims that the sun doesn't cause skin cancer, such misinformation is easily spread across social media. I sat down with social media expert Scott Kleinberg to discuss how to combat this type of health misinformation.
I've seen it all, and what I've seen is really, really alarming, to be honest with you.
Kleinberg is well aware of the misinformation online regarding sun safety, but to him, it's just par for the course at this point.
Oh, I mean, I'm familiar with those posts that you're talking about, and I've seen those posts before, and I've seen people make fun of SPF factors and all those kinds of, crazy things. And honestly, my reaction is it doesn't surprise me. Terrible reaction, right? It doesn't surprise me because that's what I'm expecting these days. I don't necessarily think it's that there are so many people out there that don't believe that using sunscreen is good for you. I think it's people who actually want to put that stuff out there to set up a false narrative. And obviously, I don't have to tell you that's disturbing and alarming in so many ways. But if I had to sum up what you're saying, I think the reason, and I'll say it again, I think the reason why people do it is because everything that's put in place right now allows them to do it easily.
According to Kleinberg, what allows people to spread misinformation so easily boils down to shrinking attention spans and prioritizing shock value.
On social media, we do not read, we scan. If you remember one thing about social media, it really has to be that we're all pressed for time. There's this amazing stat out there that says in your Facebook feed, it used to say, and I want to say this is 10 years ago, it used to say we have 3 seconds in order to catch somebody's attention in a Facebook feed. So when we were talking about content creation, we were talking about those 3 seconds to get people interested. Ever since then, that number has changed, and it is now 1.7 seconds. That is because people are pressed for time, or so they say. So what's happening is I don't think you're getting people out there that are like, I want to say that sunscreen is not going to help people. I think it's like, oh, this is shocking. I have to show my friends. They hit retweet. They don't understand what it means and the cascade of events that take place when they start by doing that. And because algorithms are set up the way they are to show people the most shocking things or what they think is the most shocking things, we end up in a situation like you're talking about now.
But when it comes to identifying misinformation and preventing its spread, Kleinberg has several pieces of advice.
Number 1, do not immediately share something you see on social media blanketly, just click a button. Don't ever do that. I think if everybody were to take 15 to 30 seconds to Google what they are about to share on social media, the world would be a better place. One of the other things you want to be very careful of is when you are sharing something from another social media account, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, doesn't matter. Take a look at how long that account has been online. Take a look at how many followers that account has. There's a big difference between a celebrity who's out there saying, I don't believe in vaccines, and an account that was just created 14 hours ago that has one message, and the one message is sunscreen doesn't work.
Despite seeing plenty of room for improvement, Kleinberg is hopeful for the future of social media.
I do believe that the social media we have now, for whatever reason, is broken. I do believe, but I don't believe it's necessarily beyond repair. I think there are ways to still make good things happen. And I think when we're talking about topics like sun safety or anything to do in the health space, I think it's much more important to try to find these positive, accurate messages and get people to share them, because there's still a lot to be said for how fast the speed of information moves on social media.
As you soak up the summer sun, be sure to protect your skin and apply that sunscreen. And while you're at it, pay attention to your social media hygiene. That's all for this episode of Medill Newsmakers. I'm Drake Wilson.